Hello, welcome everybody. This is part of our National Crime Victims' Rights Week recognition. And today we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about some services you might not know that Homicide Survivors provides. And we're going to talk with Brad Holland and Amy Gomez, who are both staff at Homicide Survivors, about some of the services that they offer. And a reminder to you that all of our services are free for survivors. We never charge any survivors anything for any of the services we provide, and that includes our free legal services. As we start, I'll just ask each of you to talk a little bit about your background and what brought you to Homicide Survivors. And Brad, if you don't mind starting.
Sure. I'm an attorney licensed to practice in Arizona. I've been here all of my life. I went to law school when I was 40 because of deep-seated passions about the mysterious, scary world of the law, and was a criminal prosecutor for 6 or 7 years, and am now at Homicide Survivors doing the kinds of work that we didn't get to do as criminal prosecutors, the kind of work that I think is important in helping victims and survivors sort of sort through the complicated issues of how we get to what comes next.
Great, thank you. Amy, can you talk a little bit about what brought you to Homicide Survivors?
Sure. I am also an attorney. I'm not licensed to practice in Arizona, and I'm also a social worker. And I've spent a good part of my career as a systems-based social worker, so working for law enforcement agencies and prosecution agencies. I really find the criminal justice system very interesting. And as Brad said, it for most people who don't inhabit that universe all the time, it is a mysterious and scary place. And I'm happy to be able to provide whatever clarity and comfort I can for people that unfortunately in these circumstances find themselves needing to intersect with that system.
So what are some of the things that you found survivors struggle with or surprised for or are left to navigate in the wake of a homicide? Brad?
Money. Of course, as you said, our services cost nothing, which is a blessing for people who find themselves in difficult situations. What to do with the car? Who has to pay the insurance? Is the mortgage still have to be paid? Was there a will? I think Amy deals a lot with family, child custody. That isn't my specialty, but mostly about what do we do next and whose responsibility is it to make sure that all of the I's get dotted and all the T's get crossed.
And this is at a time of tremendous crisis when people are struggling with trauma and grief, and it's hard to navigate any system or any process. And so having somebody there to assist them who's well qualified and knows the process, is invaluable. Amy, what are some of the things you've noticed that survivors struggle with?
Particularly in domestic violence homicides, life insurance can always be an issue. If one spouse murders the other spouse and the spouse who committed the murder is the beneficiary of the victim's life insurance policy, that money, could potentially be used to mount a legal defense, which would be problematic and hurtful for the family. Also in those cases, child custody, if there were minor children with one parent presumably possibly incarcerated and the other parent now unfortunately dead, that becomes an issue. I'm thinking of cases where, the nearest family members are out of state, but there were friends locally who maybe had a very, very close relationship with the victim and the children. Friends may have interest in the custody decisions of those children, and that would be something they would need to speak to an attorney about.
So it sounds like there are just myriad concerns that can present themselves and rather quickly. And it sounds like really every situation is fairly unique. And so having kind of a broad range of available information or services sounds really important.
Sure, and there's usually one point person in the family who's going to suddenly be responsible for taking care of a victim's bills. So access to a victim's insurance to pay bills that need to be paid right away while needing to get a hold of a police report, which is still being written. Those are some of the logistical things that we're able to assist with.
And one of the things that I've learned over the years that surprises some folks is that if somebody dies without a will in place, a legal will in place, that there is a whole legal process that is implemented. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The legal term is dying intestate, dying without a will. And there's a whole bunch of legal machinery that kicks in that most people have absolutely no control over. The courts and the history of law and what's called precedent, the court cases that have come before, have created a whole complicated machine that says, if this doesn't happen, then this happens. If this person doesn't exist, then this goes. And the kinds of clients that we work with are struggling on a day-to-day basis just to find their head with both hands. I mean, to sit down to have to sort through the complicated, scary machinery of what the law says I have to do next is complicated. And I'm happy to be one of the people who sits at Homicide Survivors and said, okay, of all the incoming that you've got going today, let's sort it out and figure out which are the most important and which ones we can handle today, because tomorrow we'll do this process again and we'll handle the things we need to handle tomorrow. But there's a lot of experience here. There's a lot of legal knowledge, and together we can sit down and help survivors and help them figure out where to start and what to do next.
Well, we're so grateful to be able to provide those services to our community. I know that they're so critical and so important to those families who access them. And it's one of those things that people don't often think about. And these are with people who are traumatized and struggling and having a very difficult time navigating life. Amy, could you talk a little bit about, from an advocate's point of view, what are some important things for victims or survivors to know or to be cognizant of?
You know, as you've said, people that are coming to us and needing our services and needing our support have just suffered something horribly traumatic, unimaginable, like something that they could never have prepared for. And so they are in crisis. It's important for me, for primarily what I do, which is help with the criminal justice system, to help them understand, in whatever way I can, that they have rights as victims. And I understand those rights. I can explain them. I can re-explain them, and help them navigate them and assert them through the criminal justice process. That they aren't there alone. They don't have to figure this stuff out by themselves. I'm there. I can answer questions. I can help them.
It's so critical, the services that you both provide. Thank you so much for being here and available to assist our community. I want all of you out there to know that we're here and we're available to assist and to provide these services, as well as our other support and assistance services, and that we're available. You can call us on our office. You can contact us through social media or our website. And I want you to encourage all of you to join us at the end of this week as we wrap up National Crime Victims' Rights Week and with a virtual candlelight vigil. And you're all invited to attend. You can find the specific information about how to access that program on our website and our social media sites as well. Thank you so much and have a good evening.